Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you a review of some Arteza watercolor products. They sent me these without cost in exchange for making this video. They sent me a palette which has 24 half pans, empty half pans in it. They sent me this pad of watercolor paper that has 10 sheets, and it has a punch and perforate situation where you fold it up at the end and it becomes basically like a canvas that you can hang up on the wall. You know, I like that. I like to be able to just hang something up without fussing about framing it or any of that stuff. And I like the color to come all the way around the edge, and this works perfectly for that. They also have it in other types of paper besides watercolor paper. And then they also sent me a pack of 60 different colors of watercolor tubes. So when I get a product like this where I have this huge amount of colors and I really don't know what they are, I like to swatch. And so I created a half sheet of watercolor paper from another pad. This is 300-pound watercolor paper. And I divided it into 60 squares, and then I'm taking each little tray and I am putting the colors out, mixing them with water, and then putting them in the little squares. I'm also adding the little indicator of whether it is supposed to be opaque, semi-opaque, or transparent. And the first thing that I notice about these watercolors from Arteza is that almost all 60 of the colors are marked either opaque, most of them are marked opaque, and some of them are semi-opaque, and then I think there's only 2 that are marked transparent. Now that seems strange to me because watercolor in general is transparent. It is a pigment suspended in gum arabic or sometimes honey or some other binder, but it's a transparent product. So the fact that they are saying that they're all opaque seems strange. So I decided to make a black mark on the paper in each square and let the watercolor go over the top of it and see if it covers it up, because something opaque should be opaque, so then the black mark should go away. And so that gives you an indicator as you're swatching whether or not something is actually opaque or semi-opaque or transparent. So as I'm going through each 6-color tray, and there are 10 of them, when I get done with the 6 colors for that row, I'm using up the rest of the watercolor on tag. So that's what you see me here doing. I didn't want to waste it because I put all that watercolor out on my piece of acrylic. I've decided that something flat like this, like a plate or a piece of acrylic, is the best way to blend out your colors because you have a lot of space and you can really vary how much water you put in, because generally in watercolor, when you put more water, it becomes more transparent and a lighter color, and when you put less water, it is a darker or more true color. So then after I got everything swatched, and I didn't make you watch that, it was a long process. It took me a minute to swatch 60 colors. And look at how pretty they are. They're nice, bright colors. The next thing I did was I went through all the swatches, and I wanted to find out if I could lift them or not. Sometimes watercolors are dye-based, and they stain the paper, so they're staining. Sometimes they're a different type of pigment that lifts really easily. These lifted up off the paper. Most of them, I could have lifted it all the way to white with a little scrubbing. So they're definitely not the staining kind, which I found interesting because usually the less expensive watercolors are the staining kind. So I don't know. Anyway, I also wanted to show you the palette that they sent. Already came with half pans, but there's only 24 colors, or 24 half pans, and I have 60 colors. So I wanted to pick out colors using my swatch chart that I could use to make a desert landscape. You know, I like to paint cactuses, and I like the red hills that I see out my window. And so I picked some colors that I thought would be a good palette for desert landscape. In the future, I can use it again for that. And I picked those 24 colors, wrote them down on this this piece that I cut to fit inside the palette, and then now I'm swatching them into that. I also put the indicator of opacity, which is a little square, and whether the square is full, half full, or not full at all is what we're talking about. So here's my reference photo that I'm going to use for my painting. So I took that piece of watercolor foldy-uppy thing that I took out of the book that they gave me, and I taped it down on my glass mat so that it wouldn't buckle, because watercolor paper buckles when you get it wet if it's not taped down. And then I have my little acrylic palette. It still has the colors on because, you know, I swatched all those 24 colors onto this small piece of cardstock so that I would know the colors the next time I open this. And then I'm drawing with a graphite pencil a scene based on the photo that I showed you. So there's a Maine cactus, there's some, a Maine saguaro cactus, there's some prickly pear cactuses in the foreground, there's some mountains in the background, and then there's a really moody sky. And the sky seems to be reflecting the colors of the mountains, which are pinkish reddish, you know, ruddy colors. So once I had my basic little drawing done, then I erased most of the graphite because I don't want it to show on the painting. I just want to have some a guide for this simple little painting, just a guide so that I know where I thought I was going to put things. So I'm starting with the wet on wet technique with the sky, and I have this color that's called Stone Blue. It is an opaque, although not 100% opaque, it's one of the more opaque, according to the chart, colors. And I'm adding, I've put water up there in the sky, and then I'm adding that color as well as the indigo blue color. Indigo is one of my favorites. If you've ever seen shibori tie-dye, that's done with indigo. It's a natural pigment. I'm going to guess that this watercolor is not actually made out of real indigo pigment, probably some sort of a, you know, substitute for that. So then for that kind of other weird part of the sky, I end up blending a few different colors, some of the vermilion red that I picked up, which is a warm red, blending it with some of the blue to gray it out a little bit because I don't want it to be like pow red in your face. I want it to be more of a just a hint, kind of a peachy hint color of the color. So I'm blending it on my palette as I go and just creating this moody sky of clouds and things with the wet on wet technique. That paper up there is super wet. So I'm trying to go around and avoid my areas where I have painted something, the shapes, because I want to keep those parts white. If I really, really was worried about keeping them super white, I could use some masking fluid, which is kind of like a rubbery product that you can put on the watercolor paper before you put the paint on, and then when you're done painting you can remove it and it kind of peels off, kind of like rubber cement, and then you're left with the white spaces. But I didn't do that. I wanted to just do something quick. I wanted to try out the colors. I didn't think this was going to be a museum masterpiece, and it's not. I'm not a watercolor artist. I'm mixed media collage acrylic lady, so it didn't turn out exactly as I wanted, but I think it's good enough. You know, it looks like my desert, and that's what I was going for. So then I skipped to the bottom part to do my painting at the bottom, trying to avoid that wet area at the top until it dries. When you're doing watercolor, you got to do that. You have to hop around from place to place, trying to let the wet dry in between before you touch the next section to it, or otherwise you're getting some blending. And I did end up getting some blending of the mountains because I didn't wait long enough, or I didn't dry it. I didn't force dry it. Real watercolor artists are much more patient than me. They stop, they wait for the layers to dry, and then they come back later after they've had their coffee or whatever, and then they work on it again. I don't do that. Um, I should, but I don't. So I just keep working, and if things run together, if things bloom, I put another layer, glaze over the top of it or whatever. What I did find out about these watercolors is that they are quite opaque, almost kind of like a gouache. I know that Arteza has gouache, and gouache is a lot more opaque, but it was in between, a real expensive watercolor and a gouache. So lots of colors, though. Lots of colors. I'm going to be doing some other stuff. I'm going to try these on the gel plate sometime later in the month because they are in tubes and they're fluid. I wonder how I could make some interesting watercolor effects using a gel plate. Different stuff like that because, I have them, I want to use them and try them out in different applications that maybe other people wouldn't. If you're like, no, that's not going to work, lady. Why are you doing that? Well, I'm going to try it. So the areas around my little drawings of prickly pear down at the bottom, I've really gone into them and messed them up quite a bit. So I do spend a lot of time working to get those rounded shaded shapes back at the bottom because they are really part of the foreground to that saguaro cactus and the little prickly pears are what you should be seeing when you look at it. So you guys might have noticed, and maybe you can't even see, but I didn't tape it right where the front, this is going to be folded up. So there's like all these layers of folding that are going to curl under. And I wanted to make sure that the first row, so I've got one score line, and then the second score line is where I taped it because I want to make sure that the sides of the canvas are painted as well. So you can kind of see that the corner rounded areas is where I put the tape. And that will block the paint, and then the back will be very white because I've blocked the paint from running over to the back. But I will have a piece that I can just put a tack on the wall and hang it up immediately without any framing. And it's all tucked together. It doesn't require any glue or anything like that to hold it together. It's got little tabs that tuck in with each other to hold it together. It's an interesting concept. I don't think anyone besides Arteza has anything like this. As far as these little fold-up pieces of paper that turn into canvas. Smart idea. If you did want to somehow frame it, you could stick it onto a mat board and just have it be 3D with like a flat mat board around the back, and you'd end up with kind of an interesting look as well. If you Since this is not going to be in a frame, I will spray it with a UV sealer spray that will protect the colors so that it doesn't fade, and will also, if it for some reason was on the wall and somebody had a squirt gun and they squirted it with a squirt gun or something, it won't run because that could happen. So I'll put a few very light coats. Light coats, let it dry, light coat, let it dry, light coat, let it dry, so that it will be all sealed up and safe. So this is where I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to make my prickly pears in the front of the canvas look good. They are the thing that I spent the very most time on. I just kept going over them and going over them. There is one prickly pear bush in the background. There was a saguaro back there, and then another one over on the hill, which I now realize is really out of proportion. But at the time, it looked like that on the picture, so I don't know. Anyway, I was looking at the picture, I promise, but that one on the right is out of proportion. It should be much smaller, but it doesn't matter. It's art. It's what you make of it. And I can sit here and criticize it till the end of time, and someone else will think it's the best thing they ever saw. So, yeah, that's just how it works. Artists are critical of themselves more than any other person is. So I decided I need some more of the red color. That's what I was missing. Is, you know, these prickly pears are growing in a clay-like dirt, just like I have in my yard. It's very red, and why didn't I have that there to begin with for them to grow in? They're not going to grow in green stuff. So the green layer is to represent things that you don't see that are green. Lots of green plants like choyas and different things, but not necessarily distinct. So then I decided I needed a little bit more of this peachy color in the moody sky and a little bit another layer of dark to kind of differentiate the hills from the sky. So I added another layer up there in the sky. And I'm just touching up, adding shadows and highlights on things with different colors and making sure that my prickly pears stand out very, very well. And I'm having fun. I am happy with these products for the price that they are. You know, a professional watercolor, one tube can be $20. And you're getting 60 of them. So they aren't professional grade watercolors. They are student grade watercolors. And I think that they'll have a lot of fun applications. And I like having all the colors. You know, I can't have all the colors of the professional grade watercolors because who can afford that? If you're an actual watercolor artist, you can. Speaking of affording, there will be in the description box below the video where it says show more. You click down there. There'll be a coupon code for Arteza as well as the links to the products that I used today and the link to my just write to Arteza. That's my affiliate link. I'm affiliate with Arteza as well as having a coupon code that you can use if you purchase some of these products or something else on Arteza. There's lots of good stuff over there on the site. Everything from quilting stuff to art stuff to things for kids, things for storage and organization. All kinds of that stuff is on Arteza. So I have that link down there if you want to use it. I think I'm just about finishing up my project. Yep. Okay, here's the folding part. So there's a bunch of score lines, and you fold it back, and you can see I have one line of color there. That's going to end up being the sides. And then you just take the two short ends, you fold them in until they're like a square tube, and then they have these little splits in them, and you tuck the tabs in, and that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please remember to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment or question below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notification bells. You can share this on Pinterest if you'd like to. And all those things really help my channel. Also, don't forget the coupon code below the video and the links below the video if you want to purchase any of these products. That is it for me. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.